Manx Radio's update.
And fast am I to you, it's 5 o'clock. Welcome to the programme for this Friday evening. And it's Ben with you here this evening with your half-hour roundup of what's been happening on the Isle of Man today. Coming up, after almost 5 weeks of disruption to bus services around the island, we'll hear from the Infrastructure Minister about those ongoing driver issues. We'll have more from Manx Care after that announcement of a further £5 million worth of savings. And we'll look ahead to FC Isle of Man's game at the Bowl tomorrow. And what about this? We'll hear about a once-in-a-lifetime chance for you to see a prominent comet in the skies above the island this weekend. We'll also keep you posted about any travel issues, and we'll see exactly how the weather is looking for the weekend as well. And if you'd like to get in touch on update, you can text 166 177 or email studio@manxradio.com. But now let's join Siobhan for a roundup of Friday's main news stories.
The Infrastructure Minister has apologised for the ongoing disruption to the island's bus network, but says he believes there are better days ahead. We're told that as many as 8 drivers are currently in training, though each will require at least 6 weeks before they can start transporting passengers. The Chief Executive of Manx Care says the organisation is one facing a number of challenges, but denies that it is failing. A number of cuts to frontline services were announced this week in an attempt to bring its overspend down to £8 million this financial year. Theresa Cope has stressed they were decisions the board didn't want to take, but that they have to make moves to balance the books. A number of Saturday's sailings have seen their departure times altered due to forecast adverse weather conditions. The 2:45am sailing from Heysham to Douglas will now leave at 2:15, and its return leg will set off for Lancashire at 8am rather than 8:45. Meanwhile, the afternoon sailing from Heysham will depart at 1:30pm rather than 2:15. The Chief Executive of Manx Utilities says proposals for the island's first wind farm are the cheapest and best way to keep downward pressure on bills. The authority is inviting members of the public to a series of consultation events later this month, ahead of the submission of a planning application early next year. Further afield, police are investigating allegations against former Harrods owner Mohammed Al Fayed. They say they're now looking into 40 further claims. The IDF says it's conducting a thorough review after 2 UN peacekeepers were shot at in Lebanon, and Stephen Graham and Sophie Rundle are returning for the Peaky Blinders film, which will follow the Shelby family into the Second World War. They're your headlines. I'll be back with your news at 6.
Thanks very much indeed, Siobhan. Now here's the weather, brought to you by Manx Glass and Glazing. Dry with sunny spells for the rest of the day, a moderate to fresh west or southwesterly wind, and top temperatures about now 12 Celsius. It will be mainly dry overnight with some clear spells, and the wind's becoming a strong southwesterly and actually fairly chilly overnight. We're looking at lowest temperatures down to 5 Celsius for most places. For the weekend then, Saturday not looking too good. Cloudy with spells of rain in the morning, clearing to isolated showers in the afternoon. A strong southwesterly wind veering west or northwest through the day, and best temperatures up to 12. Sunday's looking better. A grass frost in some places in the morning, but it will be dry and bright through the morning, but then turning cloudy with rain arriving later in the day, later in the evening or overnight into Monday. So hopefully through the day we should be fine on Sunday. Light northerly winds veering southeast and strengthening later. Top temperatures up to 13 Celsius. Sunset this evening is just before 6:30 and sunrise in the morning is 19 minutes to 8.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
TE Carbon provide new memorial stones, grave renovations, new inscriptions and fire hearths. Visit us at Hope Street, Castletown or at Broadway, Douglas, or call 844 440. TE Carbon, here when you need us.
Most builders start with a hammer and saw. Manx Construction start with ideas and imagination. For new build, extension or home office, Manx Construction offer full service from planning to completion. Call Tony on 452 688.
We all need peace of mind. That's where Peace of Mind Manx Will Writing Services can help you. From just £149 plus VAT. Call 671 001 or go to peaceofmind.co.im.
At Bond Fabrics, we're not just a fabric shop. As well as curtains and upholstery and dress and costume fabrics, we've knitting and crocheting wools, made-to-measure curtain and blind service, plus poles and tracks. Visit Strand Street, Douglas, call 611856 or see bondfabrics.im.
Fast am I to you with Update on Manx Radio. A bit of a swap around today. It's Ben with you for the next 25 minutes. The time now is 5:05. And let's look first of all at a big story here on the island over the last few weeks. And the Infrastructure Minister has apologised for the ongoing disruption to the island's bus network, but believes there are better days ahead. Now, we're told that as many as 8 drivers are currently in training, though each will require at least 6 weeks before they can start transporting passengers. However, the root cause of the issues remains unclear, with accusations regarding a 2-tier contract system causing discontent among drivers. Tim Krukall was asked what steps are being taken to ensure staff retention.
They've always been advertising when there has been vacancies there, and for whatever reason they just haven't had the people applying. But at the moment we've got, I think it's about 8 people within the system that are doing the training now or about to start training. So it's just one of those things, unfortunately, which has caused us an awful lot of problems for the travelling public. But hopefully there's better times coming, hopefully. One of the problems that we do get, if anybody should fail their test at the end of it, unfortunately they have to wait 4 weeks, and it's the same with the car test. You know that. So that's against us. I'm not saying I don't know if we've had any fail, but that could go against us.
Is Bus Vannin currently in discussions with union representatives at all?
I'm sure they will be, because it's that time of year when all the government are talking to unions about pay rises and things. I'm sure they are. I'm sure you're referring as well to rumours that are out there and all sorts, but I don't think that's got anything to do with this situation we've got at the moment.
Because there have been allegations of a 2-tier contract system that might be causing discontent. Can you just clarify whether those are accurate?
I don't think they're accurate at all. There are different contracts for those that have been in the service for a long time, and we're aware of that. Obviously, we know there's different contracts out there, but I don't think that's anything to do with this problem at the moment.
With the postponement of events like STEMfest, partially due to transport issues, which could obviously have a knock-on effect to things like education, which has a wider implication in itself, what steps are being taken to mitigate the impact of service disruptions on the community?
Well, we work very closely with either education or DFE or whoever it is that's booking any buses, and we always involve tours if we can do. We're trying to use tours more if we can do nowadays, to take away from our services, so we can leave them. I mean, they're a private company and they're out there to make business, so we shouldn't be taking business away from them if possible. But as far as STEMfest was concerned, trying to move 600 plus students at the same time, straight after we've opened schools or taken children to school, the numbers were too big, and even with tours, it just wasn't possible, and deliver the daytime service, if you like.
Now, it's almost 5 weeks since disruption to bus services around the island began, and in that time we put in numerous requests to speak to the Infrastructure Minister. So it's good to be able to bring you that update from Tim Krukall, speaking to Christian there. Checking the latest with Bus Vannin, they did warn of possible disruption to a number of services today, but actually for the rest of the day it looks like everything is running to schedule. No word of any issues for tomorrow, but just to recap, Bus Vannin has issued that travel alert for all Sunday services from this weekend for the foreseeable future. So on Sundays, it is reducing its service levels, with the main change being that its southern routes will reduce to half hourly through the peak of Sundays. It says it's a temporary measure whilst they overcome the current challenging period. You can find a link to those changes at manxradio.com, and across the weekend, particularly on Sunday, you can stay up to date with all the latest via Bus Vannin's Facebook page, and if you want to track a specific service, findmybus.im. Well, let's move to another big story this week, because I'm sure you heard that announcement yesterday that Manx Care is in the process of implementing an additional £5 million worth of savings schemes, which includes cuts to patient-facing services. If successful, the board says the measures will bring its overspend down to £8 million this financial year. Siobhan asked Chief Executive Teresa Cope if Manx Care's self-proclaimed once-in-a-generation shift in the way health and care services are provided to the island's population is failing.
I would argue it's not failing. I would say Manx Care is a new organisation that when it was established, we were in the midst of COVID. the first 18 months, almost 2 years of Manx Care was still very much in COVID. I remember the first year of Manx Care starting, having the highest number of inpatients with COVID that there had ever been. And then we moved to living with COVID. And then in year 2 of Manx Care, we prepared for comprehensive inspection across all of our services. So we invited the Care Quality Commission and Ofsted into all of our services. So I think it was always a big ask in the context of COVID, comprehensive inspection, and Sir Jonathan Michael's funding formula not able to be offered to Manx Care.
Well, just to jump in there, I mean, he gave you that funding formula. The Manx Labour Party we've heard from this week, they say the health service has been routinely underfunded this entire time that Manx Care has been in existence. So do you agree with that?
Absolutely. The evidence is there. So the funding formula from Sir Jonathan Michael's was very transparent. And we know what we should have had as a settlement, and we know what we've had. And there is a very clear gap. However, we do acknowledge as an organisation that the economic landscape has changed, and probably that funding formula is no longer affordable. But yes, I think if you just come back to the funding formula, Sir Jonathan Michael's said was needed to transform services and create a fit-for-purpose health and care system for the island. No, we have never received a settlement which matches that funding formula.
We have had an enormous response from you to this over the last couple of weeks since those first savings measures were announced. And then, it was yesterday, wasn't it? Yesterday afternoon when Manx Care announced those further savings. So do get in touch with your thoughts on that. What do you think about what Theresa Cope had to say speaking to Siobhan? And you can hear that interview in full. A lot of ground covered between Siobhan and the Manx Care Chief Executive. It's available now as a newscast at manxradio.com. It's coming around to 12 minutes past 5 on this Friday evening, and to the south of the island now, where Castletown Commissioners says the pedestrianisation of Market Square is ahead of the curve. It sent out a notice for the square to be permanently closed year-round. Our local democracy reporter Emma Draper has more details.
In a statement, Beth Cannon says the extension notice publicised in the newspaper relates to a resolution made last November for the permanent closure of the square. She's also confirmed that no further applications have been submitted. The statement claims during the summer, pedestrianisation has transformed the square and made it more accessible and welcoming by removing traffic. Mrs Cannon says the changes allowed residents and visitors to enjoy a relaxed and open environment. Additionally, she believes it has supported environmental objectives by reducing noise and air pollution, whilst creating a safer space for pedestrians and cyclists. She also says that an urban design specialist will be brought on to improve the square, and the local authority will invest in permanent street furniture, seating and greenery. This will happen once clarity is achieved regarding traffic regulation orders. The statement says it will be a dedicated community space ideal for local events, markets and gatherings. It claims pedestrianisation aligns with the island plan and the comments made in the draft local economy strategy by improving communal areas, enhancing safety and stimulating local economic activity. Mrs Cannon says due to the changing business landscape in Castletown, the creation of a pedestrian-friendly space is a natural progression. In her statement, she says the town is ahead of the curve in this regard and the focus is on creating a vibrant and accessible space.
Looking now at the business news here on Manx Radio, and helping 9 Manx food producers secure the accreditation needed to be able to sell their goods in supermarkets has cost more than £120,000 over the last year. The Department of Environment, Food and Agriculture has been providing extra support to food businesses and farmers since ShopRite announced its sale to Tesco just over a year ago now. The funds have been used to help producers secure the SALSA, or Safe and Local Supplier Approval accreditation, which is recognised by several supermarket chains, including Tesco. DEFA says funding remains in place for further businesses, with the department currently providing 100% of the cost of securing SALSA accreditation. Well, looking now at the stock market report brought to you by Ramsey Crookall. UK and European stocks closed in the green. Wall Street futures were in the green early on as market participants digested quarterly earnings reports from some of the biggest names in US banking and better than expected inflation data. Gold extended gains after the release of the latest data on US producer prices, as the US dollar pulled back from 2-month highs on heightened expectations for a Federal Reserve rate cut in November. Oil eased after a rally yesterday, but prices remained set for a second straight weekly gain as investors weighed the impact of that hurricane damage on the US demand against any broad supply disruption if Israel attacks Iranian oil sites. Looking at the commodities and gold, it's standing at 1.07%. That's $2,657. The Brent, 0.25%. That's $78.80. The markets now at the close, the FTSE 100 finished up 0.18% at 8,252. And a short time ago, the Dow Jones was up 0.83% at 42,804. And the Nasdaq was up 0.21% at 18,320.
I'm running late again. Do you know where I put my car keys?
In the fridge.
Where's my phone?
Under the dog basket.
Bye.
You haven't forgotten that we're seeing Ramsay Crookall later?
Oh, no, of course not. 5 p.m, is it?
2:45.
I'll be there.
Life is busy. That's why Ramsay Crookall's team takes time to help you make a mindful investment decision, considering all the options, giving you full control of your financial future. Less stress, more assurance.
Forgot to put my shoes on.
See how we can make your money work for you. Call 717171 or visit ramsaycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Just gone 5:15. Let's start with the sailings. Everything running to schedule at the moment. The Ben McCree due in from Heysham just after 6:30, going back out at 7:45 this evening. And Manannan is currently heading to Liverpool. In fact, she should be in the Mersey now, arriving at the new ferry terminal in about 20 minutes. But there is disruption, slight alterations, in fact, expected to the Ben's timetable from overnight onwards. So the overnight 2:45 from Heysham to Douglas is now leaving half an hour early because of the latest weather forecast. So overnight, the Ben leaving Heysham at 2:15. You're asked to check in no later than 1:30. And tomorrow morning, sailing to Heysham will now be departing 45 minutes early at 8 o'clock. You're asked to check in no later than 7:15. And coming back tomorrow afternoon, the Ben will be leaving Heysham at 1:30. So you're asked to check in no later than 12:45. And the Manannan sailing tomorrow evening, departing Liverpool, due to leave at 7:15. It's now leaving Liverpool quite a bit earlier at 4 o'clock, so you're asked to check in no later than 3:15 for that. Looking at the airport, everything is fine for the roads. It's a beautiful evening, so lovely and clear along the higher routes. Watch out though in Braddon, the Braddon Road, one way from the Bala Fletcher roundabout through to the hospital roundabout in that direction for that resurfacing work. The Strang Road also one way from the Strang roundabout down towards Union Mills. And on Governor's Road, you've got those lights in near Governor's Bridge and Blackberry Lane through until December. Bus van in, it looks like bus services all running to schedule for the rest of the day, through tomorrow as well. At the moment everything's looking good, but from Sunday for the foreseeable future there is that revised timetable coming into place. Get all the details at manxradio.com. You can stay up to date on Bus Vannin's Facebook page, and you can also get the latest on a specific service by going to bus.im or findmybus.im.
Quayside Tyres and Service Centre with 1 year's free engine warranty from Castrol. Get more with
Quayside.
As always, if you spot any problems on the roads, if it's safe and legal to do so, let us know. 166 177. Let's look at sport now, and after a disappointing last 7 days, FC Isle of Man will be hoping to avoid a third straight defeat when they welcome Padiham to the Bowl in the NWCFL Premier Division tomorrow night. Whilst he wasn't in the dugout for the Ravens' heavy defeat at Cheadle Town midweek, manager Paul Jones says he, the players and the coaching staff are keen to turn things around tomorrow.
There's a danger that you overreact to stuff like that. I think the most disappointing thing was that when we've lost this season, it's not been by more than one goal, and to concede 4 and not register any ourselves was a little bit, it took us aback a little bit, I think. But then when you dissect things a little bit, if you need to, then, we're all right. Like there's things that kind of happened in that game that, or around that game that maybe aren't going to be normal for us, and we're not going to overthink it and overanalyze it. Everyone has a bad day at the office, so to speak, and we're going to make sure that that doesn't happen on Saturday, and move past it very quickly.
And speaking of Saturday, back on home soil up against Padiham, do you think the fact that of how strong your opposition can be is extra incentive to raise the game and bounce back?
I know the players really well by this stage, and I think again one of the things that probably disappointed us all, including them, was that we didn't offer as much as we thought we could have done to get back into the game. Padiham are always a tough team. We've got a good kind of relationship with them as a club. They're pushing towards getting into the playoffs this year, as they were last year, and they didn't have a great start to the season, but have really found some good form like we did through September. And they've not lost the last two coming into this game like we have, so it'll be a really, really difficult game. A team bang up for it and in form, and we are going to treat the game as a great opportunity to really test ourselves and get back to performing at a high level, as well as hopefully winning the game of football. So we've got a lot of players that are really confident and really in a good place, and part of my job is making sure I get the right mix on the pitch at any one time to make sure we all have a strong performance, and we can hopefully beat a really tough Padiham team on Saturday.
FC Isle of Man versus Padiham kicks off at tomorrow evening, 6 o'clock, and Manx Radio will be providing full match commentary on our DAB and AM channels, and Rob will be back with us in a couple of minutes to look ahead to the rest of the weekend's sport. Now, this is a great story. A former Isle of Man Fire and Rescue Service vehicle is destined for Ukraine after being presented to a local charity. The Volvo fire engine was owned by Tremode-based events business ELS, and it's been acquired by an anonymous donor for local charity Manx Support for Ukraine. The vehicle will be driven to Mykolaiv in southern Ukraine, where the local fire station was destroyed by Russian forces. It'll be filled with equipment, including machinery and medical supplies, and driven to the country by a group of volunteers led by the charity's trustee, Jim Quinn. Simon Richardson's been talking to Jim, and first of all, Justin McMullen from ELS.
Yeah, so just to be clear, obviously we're not donating it. There's a very kind donor who is remaining anonymous, and they very kindly purchased it from us. We purchased it from an auction some months ago for part of one of our other business interests, where we do cover for motorsport events and other things. So that was the thought process behind purchasing it in the first place. Jim and I have known each other for some time. We got talking at an event recently where we were discussing a project that I worked on many years ago, where we sent some fire engines out to Romania. And I was one of the lucky, people to drive one out to Romania and donate it to the local fire service out there. So part of that conversation, we were just talking about Ukraine, and Jim's been working on that for quite some time. Donating equipment from the Isle of Man and other places, and it became obvious that realistically this vehicle was going to take us some time to get it back to an operational state, and for what we wanted to do with it. Whereas the people of Ukraine are crying out for things like this at the minute. So we had a discussion, and then the offer was made. I said, well, tell you what, why don't we try and do something with this vehicle? Let's send it to Ukraine and make a difference.
Jim, this is some donation. It's a fantastic vehicle, and it's going to be very valuable, I would imagine, to people there.
Yes, it is going to be very, very valuable to the fire station out in Mykolaiv, which is going to be its final destination. The fire station in Mykolaiv was levelled in the invasion in 2022. The chief fire officer had a bullet miss her head by 2 centimetres, but even though our life was put at risk highly, she came back to work, got over any issues that she had to. She came back to work and started the rebuild of the fire station, and the fire services there are 100% volunteers at this moment in time. So the fire engine that they could salvage from all the wreckage and things like that is 1964. So the addition of this fire engine is an absolute fantastic thing. The fire engine that they have there, they have to go to a water source. They can't carry water with them. So that takes a lot of time for them to actually pump the water from hydrants or wherever.
23 minutes past 5 on Manx Radio. Now, did you see the Northern Lights last night? A fantastic display. And what about this? Isle of Man residents are also being urged to look towards the skies this weekend to see a once-in-a-lifetime comet. Now, this is Comet Su Shin Shan Atlas. and it orbits the sun and got close to it a couple of weeks ago on the 27th of September, and it's expected to be seen over Manx skies between tomorrow and Monday. Manx Radio's local astronomer Howard Parkin says it's a prominent comet that can be seen every 95,000 years.
It has re-emerged now and has been seen in the dawn sky in the southern hemisphere, but it's getting more and more into the northern sky. And the beauty of it is it's not particularly far away from the group of stars we all know of as the Plough. So I'm looking for around the 14th is probably the best date, but a few days before, and it's going to get it's brighter now, or it'll be brighter on the 14th, and it'll slowly start to fade. So really 12th to 14th around them is the best chance to see it. Look for the Plough. Follow the handle of the Plough down to a bright star on the horizon, which is called Arcturus. To the left of that star, you should see the tail of this comet pointing away from the horizon, pointing away from the sun. The tail is pointing away from the sun. And I'm quite excited about this as well. And we could actually get aurora and a comet all in the sky at once. So it's very exciting times for astronomy at the moment.
With Comet Shushan, how many more years it'll take before it comes back?
It orbits the sun, but obviously the Earth is relatively close to it. It's roughly half the distance from the Earth to the sun away from us at its best on the 14th of October. But this one in particular has got a period, I think the figure is 95,000 years. So you're not going to see it a second time. Just to let you know, this particular comet is this is a very prominent comet. And the fact that it survived its passage around the sun is significant. What we don't know until we've got some more detail, it may well have taken what we call a gravitational assist off the sun and been flung out of the solar system. So it may never return, because if it got sufficiently of a gravitational pull off the sun, it'll be slung out the solar system. And we think that's likely to happen, but the experts aren't saying that yet because they want more observations.
Well, thank you, Howard, for that update. So we absolutely need to see this, don't we, if we can? So between tomorrow and Monday, we might be all right with the weather. There may be some opportunities. So yeah, cast your eyes to the skies if you can. Let's look now to the sport. A lot of action coming up over the weekend. Here's Rob Pritchard.
Fast am I, Ben. Well, we're going to start with just 1 point that separates the top 4 sides in the Canada Life Men's Premier League heading into the latest Manx football this weekend. Well, after a rest week 6 days ago, current table toppers Peel face a tricky test to keep up their unbeaten league record when they host third place Corinthians this Saturday, whilst reigning champions Ayr United are at home to fourth place Foxdale. Well, you can see the full schedule for this weekend's fixtures covering Saturday and Sunday at manxradio.com. Meanwhile, in rugby, after a week's break, Douglas returned to the Regional 2 North West this weekend with a tough trip away at Inform Sandbach on Saturday. Elsewhere, and also returning after 7 days off, are Vagabonds, who hosts Salford-based De La Salle in Counties 3 ADM Lancs Cheshire. That's part of a Ballafletcher double header, which sees Vagabonds ladies take on Eccles. There's also one game in the Manx Shield at 2:15 tomorrow as Ramsey and Western Vikings face off at Morag Park. And in hockey, 2 mixed Premier League heavyweights face off this weekend as league action returns in the sport on Ireland tomorrow. Well, after the opening cup fixtures last weekend, league competition resumes with matches across all 4 senior leagues from 11 a.m. on Saturday morning and throughout the afternoon. One of the standout ties sees Backers A against Vikings A in the top flight. You can see a list of this weekend's fixtures on our website.
And Rob, you'll be back with us in a couple of minutes with Friday Sport Preview, looking ahead in much more detail to all the weekend's action. But that's it from Update for this evening. Thank you very much indeed for being with us. Rob is next, and then Kinner's here with Greatest Hits from 6:30. Howard along with Sweet and Swing at 9, and Nicola on the 90s playlist from 10. Beth is back on Monday's Update. Whatever you're up to, have a brilliant evening, have a great weekend, enjoy the weather this evening, and I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for being with us.